So we can just have a look. I don't really want to get an extra suitcase unless I have to, and I don't think I have to. That might allow us to talk with people, but I don't think it's going to be ready. Are we going to go to Salt Lake City? I should look at this. So we don't actually know. So San Francisco, we do have a route, which goes to Salt Lake City, so we could get that. But that would require us getting a new... Oh, that's closed anyway. But that would require us getting... We had another 6 days to wait for our transfer of funds. But we kept ourselves occupied. As night fell, I attended to Monsieur Fogg. The haircut, the dear wish he would have a restorative night. Yeah, well, so I could get that katana, but then I've got to buy the extra suitcase as well. We're not going to any of those, I don't think. Seasickness tablets can be used to settle the stomach on rough waters. Nah, I don't think we will. So we will, at this point, we will just wait. We had 5 days to wait for our money to arrive from London. So found a room and let the time go by. So I think it's just going to go all the way through. We woke ready to be at the bank as soon as it opened its doors. Tap the clock. Tap the clock. There we go. Bank. Funds are ready. We turn to the bank at opening time to collect our funds, and then we're ready to proceed once more. We're probably going to have to wait another day. Of course we are. I'm already there! Yeah, I thought we'd be a bit too late. In 6 days! Oh, that sucks. I could do that. That departs tomorrow. No, that departs tomorrow. What? No. No, you're going the wrong way. You're going the other way. I don't want that one. I want this one. So, you're saying... Right, that departs tomorrow. This departs in 6 days. Oh, that's this ship, isn't it? Isn't it? I'm really confused. Right. It doesn't matter, we will... Oh, actually, what's this one? Oh, I'm not even going to... Oh, it's a waste. Can I switch anything around? I haven't got a spare thing I could sell, have I? I was just thinking if I'd like a spare... Actually, if I sell that, I can get the katana. There we go. Good to see we're well armed with the katana. Yes, thank you, Monsieur Fogg. Before going to bed, I washed and hung our linen, spent a few hours polishing shoes. A little bit of extra cash. Depart. Can I go here? No, I still can't. Well, we're going to have to go down to Honolulu. The reason I came to Yokohama was because I couldn't get to Honolulu, so I was going to go to San Francisco. Well, I don't think that's going to arrive on Friday, and then... So that's actually a longer route, by the looks of things. So that arrives on Wednesday, that arrives next Friday. So I don't know exactly what that fully... Yeah, it departs at 8 AM. There's something seriously wrong with this. Okay, I think it's counting this one, so we will go. We will go... I don't think it's the best route, but the other route just seems not to be making any kind of sense. The Noelani was a new concept, we were told, a hover barge making the long-distance journey from Yokohama to Honolulu in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. If only it went further than Honolulu. A little bone rattling for the sake of a few days' efficiency seemed a good trade to me, but the ship had only enough fuel for the journey, and even then, I think, only just. We and the other passengers on this inaugural crossing must have looked pale and uneasy as we set off. Even the captain was sweating. No doubt the heat was to blame. Besides, standing next to the captain was our very own artificer, so what could possibly go wrong? And indeed, when disaster struck, its nature took us all quite by surprise. Wait, what do we get? Experimental hover ship leaves Yokohama on maiden voyage. newsworthy, of course. So, where am I? I'm on my way to Cheyenne. So yeah, we've got 14 days. I don't think we're gonna go all the way around in 14 days. All right. The first day aboard was blissfully quiet. The ship booked along across the waves, and I stayed down below with my master, ensuring he was comfortable. In the evening, I sat with Mademoiselle Carlotta, a flashy American gold prospector who was, apparently, extraordinarily rich, though she carried herself like someone who had only come into wealth recently. Evening came with no sign of the artificer or the captain. Perhaps they were busy ensuring we stayed upright in the water. Oh, that scares me now. Are we going to capsize at some point? Right. We noticed the trouble when my bread roll slid from the side of my plate and rolled against the side of the craft, quickly followed by another passenger's wine glass. I went to retrieve my bread and tumbled, feeling suddenly giddy. The entire ship was listing to the left. A moment later, a strange noise began to issue from the engines below. It sounded somewhat like a scream. I looked over at Monsieur Fogg, who looked most appalled by the sudden sideways motion. I stumbled to my feet again and made for the exit for the room. The shrieking noise from the engine stopped, but the boat did not right itself. Passepartout, perhaps it would be useful to ascertain the cause of this misalignment, my master suggested. Oui, monsieur, I replied. I headed from the dining car to the engine room to find our artificer. Negotiating the corridors was a difficult proposition due to our stubborn tilt, but we were, I could sense, slowly moving back to upright once more. Perhaps we were not about to sink after all. Suddenly, Mademoiselle Carlotta leapt into my path. Passepartout, she hissed. Mademoiselle, what is the matter? I demanded. I have just come from the engine room, she replied. Her expression aghast. And Passepartout, she stumbled, her voice a tremor. Mademoiselle, tell me, please. It's Madame Chou, artificer. Passepartout, she's dead. I hurried to the boiler room, and it was true. Madame Chou was not only dead, the circumstances told a clear story. She had been murdered. The weapon lay close by. From the doorway, Mademoiselle Carlotta breathed. Oh dear, that katana, Passepartout, it is yours, correct? I looked down at it. Funny, at first I had not recognized it because of the blood pooling around it. But how did it get here? I whispered. And what are you doing here? Mademoiselle Carlotta replied, equally quietly. She took a step away, then quite suddenly fled from the room. I was left with the body, weapon, and a terrible anticipation of what would happen next. Oh no! We're in deep trouble now. Cholera spreading from Manila aboard airships. Oh dear. This is not going to go well, is it? The next day the investigation, such as it was, began in earnest. The captain demanded to talk to everyone, but of course everyone had an alibi. There was no doubt the culprit was still abroad, but there was no clue to suggest who it might be. But the weapon, that belonged to us, and had been spirited out of our locked cabin. That, the captain huffed, is the only piece of true evidence we have, Passepartout. Monsieur Jaffa says that based on the corpse's temperature, he estimated death occurred 2 hours before she was found. Where were you and your master at the time of the crime? I told the truth. I was taking a turn on deck, alone. My master, I believe, was in the drawing room. Also alone, Monsieur Fogg put in, helpfully. The captain nodded. It does not look good, gentlemen. Monsieur Fogg is a gentleman, I protested. That I do not doubt, the captain replied. But this is a murder, and cannot be overlooked. Our course is simple, Monsieur Fogg said directly. We are in the ocean. There is nowhere for us to run, therefore no need to imprison us. Here is our offer. Let us discover the true culprit by the time we reach port, or you may arrest us for the crime. Hooray! Deduction puzzle stuff! I rubbed my hands. A chance to save ourselves. The captain nodded. Very well, you have until we dock. Once he was gone, Monsieur Fogg turned to me. Passepartout, our situation is desperate. You must uncover the truth. How am I to do that? I demanded. I suggest you ask people things, Monsieur Fogg replied, and see what occurs. There was only a few days remaining. I drew up my list of suspects and attempted to do some detecting. There was no time to lose. Converse. Can I find something? Greetings, Mr. Jaffa. I hope you've discovered something useful to Passepartout. Honolulu to Acapulco. Since I've been told that I've met a woman who designed parts from Ponta Delgado to London. Acapulco to Havana. And here's what. No. Well, you know, Fort Moresby, Fort Tabatinga. Obviously, Mademoiselle Carlotta is an obvious suspect. I began my investigations. General Peters at the scene. Several feet had trampled through it by now, of course, and there had been ample chance for murder to come in and remove anything incriminating they might have. Even the dust had drifted away through the open porthole. But perhaps there was something small they had not considered. I hunted in the dust along the edges of the machines, in every nook and cranny, but I found nothing. Suddenly the boat listed and the machine made a squealing noise. And I looked over the controls, fearing disaster. But it seemed the artificer was tending her ship even from beyond the grave. A lever snapped, a piston pumped, a valve opened, and a blast of cold air shot out across the floor of the boat. Then the flap closed, the boat tilted back upright, and the cold air spread away. Presumably it was some regular function of the boat that helped to keep it upright. The exact workings were artifice beyond my skills, of course. With that, I left the engine room. That was a waste of time. Should have conversed with Carlotta. How goes your investigation? Honolulu to Acapulco. Still not a fan of this. Acapulco to Havana. Acapulco to Panama City. Fucking Doyle's. Acapulco to Dakar. Acapulco to Pitcairn Island. I don't think we're going that way anyway. I spent the next day asking questions of Mademoiselle Carlotta. Mademoiselle, you must help me, I began. Whatever I can... Mademoiselle Carlotta nodded, though I could see fear in her eyes. She had demanded to talk out on the open in view of the bridge. Whatever I can do, she said. You found the body. What were you doing in the engine room? What do you think? The boat was about to capsize. It was tipping right over. I hurried down to the boiler room to see what was going on, and if I could help. How might you have helped? I'm no artificer, but I had an interest in this device of Madame Chu's, so I know a bit about its function. Anyway, I thought that Madame might be able to use a pair of hands. Did you know Madame Chu? Mademoiselle Carlotta shook her head. I've heard of her reputation, of course. That's why I agreed to board the ship, but I'd never met her until we launched. She nodded. Tell me of Madame Chu's reputation. She's one of a kind, Carlotta replied. A new Savakar. This whole ship is her own creation. There is nothing else like it. It will revolutionize international trade if it is successful. She folded her arms suddenly. But what about you? Where were you when it happened? I was taking a turn on deck, I told her. But you seem determined to find someone to blame. Goodness, Passepartout. Does the captain seriously think you did it? Me or my master, it does not matter which. She looked at me with sympathetic eyes. It is a terrible thing to be accused of that which you did not do. Where were you when the crime occurred? I was in my cabin. I have an alibi for that, you'll be pleased to hear. The ship's butler brought me a gin and tonic about an hour before dinner, right about when Jaffa said it happened. What brings you aboard, though? I have my money in gold on the west coast of America. Now I own a small shipping line, but it's a hobby, really. A competing line, mademoiselle. I was hoping not. I was going to make an offer to buy her whole fleet, but I don't think that offer would be worth very much now. Have you lost a lot of money? No, though I have not earned any either. I thanked her for her time. Had I learned anything? I could not be sure. That night I remembered to adjust the pocket watch as we had crossed the international date line and gained ourselves a day. Which isn't factored in, I don't think. Care about fog. Yeah, I think we're going to end up being imprisoned in Honolulu for a while. A few days down, and I felt I had learned very little, or if I had learned a lot, I was too confused to see it. To try and clear my head, I spent a few hours talking in conversation with the captain. Have you found out anything yet, Passepartout? He inquired. I shrugged. I have a few ideas, I told him. I'm glad, he answered. For my money, I don't trust that General Peters. He's altogether too square-jawed about the whole affair to my liking. Tell me about Madame Chu. He sighed with deep sadness. She was a remarkable artificer. This is a remarkable boat. Her great captain. I couldn't be more proud to be her captain. Apparently, her great legacy. Apparently, Mademoiselle Carlotta was going to try and buy the fleet. Was she now? The captain replied with some interest. I didn't know that. She wouldn't have succeeded, however. Madame Chu and I are old friends, and we had an agreement. Do you have a key to our cabin? I asked, considering the matter of how the weapon found its way out of our luggage. He nodded. I do. I have a key to every cabin on board, as does the butler and the first mate. But their loyalty is without question, to the ship and to its artificer. They are above suspicion. Is anyone above suspicion? Of course, the captain replied. Where were you at the time of the crime? When the body was discovered, I was on the bridge with my crew. A few hours before, when Jaffa says it happened, I was off my shift. I was asleep. Alone? He bristled, but understood the question. Yes, Passepartout. Alone. I thanked the captain for his time. Good luck to you, Passepartout. I fear you may need it. I don't know. Carlotta seems to be the sensible pick. But it could well be the captain. I had barely any time left. Hawaii was fast approaching. I used what I had, begging the captain to slow down the ship, with General Peters. He was a retired army man who had served in Voltaire, and now was spending his later years touring the Pacific Islands, collecting rare birds. I asked to see them, and he was more than happy to take me through them, one corpse at a time. I asked him about the other passengers. What's your opinion of Mademoiselle Carlotta? Well, he tugged at his collar, I must say. What of her character? Well, I don't know. She seems a very together sort, doesn't she? She's a millionaire, they say. He glanced momentarily at his box of birds, and I confess I shivered. What's your opinion of the captain? I don't trust natives. All non-English types in general, he breezed. Occupational hazard. But other than that, he seems a good sort. What about Jaffa? I knew Jaffa a little during my time in the service, and he's not a detective anymore. He's not a bad egg, but he's not a good one either. That's all I said. What do you think of the boat? I like it. It's fast, and I don't mind the motion. Reminds me of a horse, except the noises. Well, which noises? Every 3 hours it makes a whistling noise like a kettle. Some kind of steam release, no doubt, day and night. It's infuriating. Where were you at the time of the murder? General Peters nodded at the question. I was asleep on the sundeck from the start of the whole affair to its end, I believe. The crew may have seen it. They may not. I don't know. That's not an alibi, I remarked. It isn't. Oh, God's my witness, Frenchie. He rubbed his whiskers. Messy business, this. It's coming clear, I think. It is. Poor Miss Carlotta is in terrible state about it. Seems she like old Chu. I didn't think they knew each other. Oh, yes. Only recently, I gather, but they get on well enough. An interesting detail. What brings you aboard this ship? I'm headed to Honolulu, because I've heard they have all manner of flighty little creatures there. He waved a hand at an ominous stack of empty boxes in one corner of his cabin. I intend to fill those with nature's treasures. So you're interested in arriving safely and fast? Just so, and I must confess to being interested in a little adventure along the way. I bid the General farewell. And he threw me a salute. Don't like the French as a rule, he remarked. But you're a good egg, Passepartout, and I hope they don't stick this one on you.